He tears his patella. And
No, ACL.
Okay.
It was so goddamn, the deal was, Sting was trying to climb the cage to get in after the Horsemen had basically what turned into a heel versus heel match with Gary Hart's crew. And the Horsemen, they put the exclamation point on that piece of business and beat Gary's crew. But Sting, they've turned on him previously in the show, and he's going to try to climb the cage and get to him, and security's supposed to hold him back and everything, and that's the way we're going to go off the air, right? Well, we sure went off the air. Mm-hmm. Doug Dillinger, love him to death, former Charlotte cop, Crockett cameraman that they had hired to be the head of security, grabbed Sting, and he didn't know how to work. Doug wasn't a worker. He really pulls fucking Sting off the cage. Sting drops, tears his fucking ACL. Oh, Jesus Christ. And now what do we do?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
How fucked are you at this point?
We were fucked.
Yeah.
And what happened basically was that, you know, we knew that it wasn't good that night. I mean, you know, if you're one of the boys, you know what it's like to, you know what it looks like, you know what it feels like, you know this guy ain't gonna be able to go in 2 weeks. So Flair told me and Kevin said, well, because I was gonna drive on the next night to where the fuck were we? In someplace in Texas, to Beaumont. I was gonna drive on that night, and he said, stay over, fly the next morning, loved that. He said, we'll talk about it on the plane, I'm gonna figure something out. So, next morning we get to the airport. He said, well, I can't remember what his exact words were, but basically, unless one of us can squat down and shit out a top babyface superstar, we're switching Luger. Okay, that's what we got to do. So that's why we switched Luger. But then that was a short-term Band-Aid fix because he wasn't going to drop the belt to Luger like he was Sting because he had promised the belt to Sting. And in those days, that was a big deal. Who got the belt and whether, you know.
Even under these circumstances.
Well, Lex wasn't ready for it. Sting was.
Okay, well, that's
different. And Lex was a better heel, to be quite honest with you. But we needed to salvage the ratings of the Clash and the cards for the next however many months Sting was going to be out. But that's why that Luger did not win the belt that night, because he had promised it to Sting and he was going to keep his promise. And also Lex wasn't ready for it. It just didn't fit, but we had to put a patch on the tire.
This is the night that the Ruse ads appeared all over the fucking ring. New concept for wrestling. Right? We'd seen it in boxing.
Well, that would have been fine. Ruse were shoes for your feet, pockets for your stuff. These fucking off-brand tennis shoes. The corporate was in St. Louis, because Jim Herd didn't know anybody unless they lived in St. Louis, right? And he was able to get a sponsorship from these shoemakers. Do they make Ruse anymore? Have they made Ruse in 20 years? I don't know. But not only that, but he told the company that the guys would wrestle in Ruse. And it was tried a few times, and you can go back and you can find tape from about that time where there's, and I mean, you know, everybody said, fuck, we're not wrestling in tennis shoes because you could break your fucking ankle. There's no, it's not wrestling boots. And so it happened for a while, but that was quickly canned. But that's the only sponsorship that Herd could get, because he knew some guy that worked with Ruse.
It was an over-the-top presentation. I mean, you could do a bumper before and after a match. You can have Norman the Lunatic standing there licking the shoe. Like, you could do something.
Yeah.
Instead of covering the ring all night.
Yeah.
With them.
Everything, everywhere. That's probably, everybody had talked about Mike Shaw, Muckin Singh in Calgary, his great promos, and you know how that he was a tremendous heel. So they bring him in, and I think Kevin was trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit in that instance, because later on, well, at least Oldie would make him Trucker Norman or whatever. He was he went from a fucking Arab or Hindu sympathizer to a guy from a lunatic asylum. Suddenly they gave him a CDL license and he was driving trucks. I don't fucking know. But that's, Herd wanted, and this will be a recurring theme, Herd wanted kids' characters and stuff. So it was a wild brawl. Mike Shaw, for that size, was a good worker. but we're dealing with what we were given.